Wife pushed for an open marriage, said, "You won't have girls lining up for you anyway." Now she's having a nuclear meltdown. Watching me get all the attention while she gets ghosted. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hi. Never thought I'd be posting here, but life comes at you fast. Kinda like how my wife came at me with, "We're in an open marriage now," over appetizers at our anniversary dinner. That was 6 months ago, and I'm only now able to talk about it without my eye twitching. Settle in. This story's longer than the pause after she dropped that bomb. So I, 32 male, have been married to my wife. I'll call her Rachel, 31 female, for like 6 years now. We're both in our early 30s, no kids, decent careers, shared apartment, pretty normal stuff. For the most part, things were steady. Not perfect or anything, but we made it work. Rachel and I met in college, got hitched right after graduation, and settled into that typical suburban American dream bullshit. White picket fence not included, but you get the idea. At first, everything was great. We both had our careers taking off, enjoyed the same shows, liked to hike on weekends, the whole 9 yards. But somewhere around year 4, shit started getting stale. And not the normal marriage is work stale that everyone warns you about. This was different. Rachel started coming home later and later from work. At first, I didn't think much of it. We both had demanding jobs, and sometimes you gotta put in those extra hours to keep the boss happy, right? But then I noticed she'd walk in the door, barely look at me, and head straight for the shower. No kiss, hello, no, how was your day? Just nothing. I'd be sitting there like an idiot with dinner I'd made getting cold on the table, watching Netflix alone while she spent an hour decompressing upstairs. When she finally came down, she'd grab a plate, microwave it, and eat while scrolling through her phone. Half the time, she wouldn't even sit at the table with me. Rough day? I'd ask. She'd mumble, not looking up from whatever was so damn interesting on Instagram. I started feeling like a ghost in my own home. Like I could walk around naked covered in blue paint and she wouldn't even notice. I tried everything, cooking her favorite meals, suggesting date nights, even buying her random gifts just to see her smile again. Nothing worked. She'd just nod, say thanks, and go back to whatever she was doing. I tried talking to her about it a few times. "Hey Rachel, is everything okay with us?" "Yeah, why?" "I don't know, you just seem distant lately." She'd look annoyed, like I was creating problems out of thin air. "I'm just tired from work. Not everything has to be a big dramatic thing, you know?" And I'd drop it, because what else could I do? Force her to be present? Demand she tell me what was going on in her head? I wasn't her jailer. Then about 6 months ago, shit started getting weirder. Rachel got super into all these self-help podcasts, journaling, growth work, therapy, the whole package. At first I was cool with it. Good for her, right? If anything, I encouraged it. I figured maybe she was working through whatever had been making her so checked out lately. But then she started pulling away even more. Not just physically, but emotionally too. She stopped checking in with me completely. Stopped initiating conversations or anything really. Our apartment became this weird neutral zone where we just coexisted without actually connecting. I'd come home from work exhausted, wanting nothing more than to vent about my asshole boss or laugh about some stupid thing that happened at the office. But Rachel would be sitting cross-legged on the floor with her journal, earbuds in, completely in her own world. If I tried to talk to her, she'd hold up a finger like, "Not now," and keep writing. By the time she was ready to engage, I'd already given up and gone to bed. I started dreading coming home. Started stopping at the bar with coworkers more often, just to put off walking into that cold, empty apartment. Even though Rachel was physically there, the place felt abandoned somehow. No warmth, no life. When I'd bring it up, she'd just say she was working through things internally, whatever that means. I gave her space, I was patient, I didn't push her too hard. Maybe I should have. I remember one night I came home from a particularly shitty day at work. All I wanted was to chill and someone to talk to. The apartment was dark, again, except for the glow of Rachel's laptop in the bedroom. I found her typing away, earbuds in, completely oblivious to my presence. I stood in the doorway for a full minute before she noticed me. "Oh, hey," she said. "I didn't hear you come in." "I've been home for 20 minutes, I said. "I was in the kitchen." "Oh," she glanced back at her screen. "Did you eat?" I grabbed something with Vanessa after work. Vanessa, the new work friend I remembered meeting Vanessa at Rachel's office Christmas party last year. Tall blonde, fake boobs, kinda loud, always touching people when she talked. She gave me weird vibes then, but I just nodded and walked away, feeling that familiar hollow ache in my chest. Once again, I'd be eating alone, watching TV alone, and eventually sleeping alone, despite sharing a bed with my wife. Then came our anniversary. Neither of us had planned anything special, pretty telling about where we were at that point. We were just sitting on the couch, takeout containers on the coffee table, some random Netflix show neither of us was watching. I was scrolling through my phone when Rachel suddenly muted the TV. "We need to talk about us," she says, with this weird, serious look on her face. I put my phone down, leaned back, and just waited. Whenever someone starts a conversation like that, you know whatever's coming isn't good. But I wasn't about to show any reaction until I heard what she had to say. 6 years of marriage, and I still couldn't read her mind. But the way she was fidgeting with her wedding ring told me this wasn't about vacation plans. I want an open marriage. I just stare at her for a second, thinking it's a joke. It wasn't. "Monogamy feels unnatural to me," she continues, like she's explaining why she switched coffee brands. "I've been thinking about this for a while." "Are you serious right now?" I asked. "I still love you." She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. "This isn't about replacing what we have. It's about exploring new connections." "So you want permission to cheat?" I ask. "It's not cheating if we both agree to it," she says, voice all patient, like she's explaining something to a child. "It's ethical non-monogamy." I kept my face neutral, but my mind was racing, connecting the dots. The late nights at work, the password on her phone that wasn't there before. This isn't a random idea. She's already got someone lined up, maybe already started. So I decided to test my theory. "So let me get this straight," I say, with a casual shrug. "You're saying it's cool if I go out and hook up with other women too?" Then she does this little laugh, not nervous, but like I'm being ridiculous. "Don't be so dramatic," she says, rolling her eyes. "Besides, it's not like you'll have girls lining up for you anyway. You haven't exactly been fighting them off all these years." That's when I knew our marriage was already dead. She didn't just want to sleep with other guys. She wanted to make sure I knew she thought I couldn't do the same. Gotta admit, that shit cut deep. We'd been together since college. I hadn't needed to fight off other women because I was committed to her. And now she was throwing it in my face like I was some loser who should be grateful anyone wanted me at all. But this wasn't Rachel at all, or at least not the Rachel I married. She used to talk shit about her friends who cheated on their boyfriends. Now she's sitting there telling me how limiting monogamy is and taking shots at my desirability? Something wasn't adding up. After some pushing, she finally mentioned her coworker Vanessa had been opening her eyes to new relationship styles. Apparently, Vanessa and her husband had an open marriage and were super happy, living their best lives or whatever. I straight up told her I wasn't comfortable with it. But the way she framed it wasn't really like a question. It was more like she was telling me about this cool new, evolved relationship model we were going to try. And honestly, I was just tired. Tired of being the only one trying. Tired of feeling like everything was on me to fix. So I said fine. Not because I wanted it, but because I was already checked out and didn't have the energy to argue anymore. In my head, though, I was already thinking about divorce. Like, who the hell asks their husband if they can sleep with other people, insults him in the process, and expects the marriage to survive that? But I didn't say that part out loud. I just set some ground rules. No emotional attachments, complete honesty about everything, and safety first. And most importantly, we'd revisit the whole thing if one of us started getting serious feelings for someone else. She agreed to all of it. Of course, Rachel jumped right in. I think it was literally the same weekend we had the talk. She had 2 hookups back to back, came home looking like she'd just discovered the meaning of life or some shit. Told me about it in these vague terms, saying it made her feel alive and free. She was proud of herself. Man, the freaking audacity. I just nodded along, pretending to be interested in all the details. What else could I do? The marriage was clearly over. Had been for a while, really. This was just the final confirmation I needed. While she was talking about her amazing new experiences, I was mentally calculating how to divide our assets and wondering if my buddy's couch would be available for a few weeks. Didn't say any of that, though. Just smiled and made appropriate noises at the right moments. Figured I'd stick around for a bit, get my ducks in a row. Maybe see what this whole open marriage thing was about while I quietly prepared for the inevitable divorce. Not because I wanted to win or anything stupid like that, but why rush out the door unprepared? She had her plans, I had mine. She just didn't know mine involved signing papers and getting separate addresses. But I didn't want to just hook up with random women. That wasn't my style. Instead, I focused on myself. Started hitting the gym again. Got back into rock climbing, which I used to love before marriage. Updated my wardrobe, got a fresh haircut. Started going out more like I used to do when I was single. Just basic self-improvement stuff. The first night I came home from the gym, sweaty and actually feeling good about myself for the first time in months. Rachel was in the kitchen, making a smoothie or some shit. "You're going to the gym now?" she asked, sounding surprised. "Yeah, thought I'd get back into it." She looked me up and down with this weird expression, Not hostile, not appreciative, just calculating. Huh, was all she said before going back to her blender. I spent the rest of the day after work going out with my friends. The next morning, I got up early to hit the gym before work. Rachel was still in bed, phone in hand as usual. Again? She asked. Yep, trying to make it a habit. She frowned slightly. You're never around anymore. I almost laughed at the irony. For months, she'd barely acknowledged my existence, and now she was complaining about me not being around? I just shrugged and headed out. Let her get a taste of her own medicine for once. What surprised me most wasn't the attention from other women. It was how quickly I stopped caring about Rachel's opinion of me. Each day I spent focusing on myself, working out, reconnecting with old hobbies, felt like peeling off a layer of that needy, approval-seeking guy I'd become. I wasn't doing any of this to make her jealous or prove something to her. I was doing it because for the first time in years, I remembered what it felt like to actually like myself. The more I go out and socialize and enjoy myself, the more people noticed me. Women at the gym would start conversations. An old college friend hit me up on Instagram. The barista at my regular coffee shop started remembering my order and making small talk. And to my surprise, my phone started blowing up. First, it was just a few DMs on Instagram from women I kinda knew. Old classmates, friends of friends. Then it snowballed. Someone must have said something to someone else because suddenly, I was getting messages from women I'd never even met before. Hey, heard you might be looking for company. Your profile came up on my feed and I had to say hi. Are you really in an open relationship now? Asking for a friend LOL? At first I thought it was some kind of prank Rachel was pulling. But nope. These were real women. Hot ones, BTW. Shooting their shot. I even got a couple of straight-up offers for hookups with zero strings attached. My phone would ding with notifications all day long. It was surreal. I didn't go crazy with it though. I just started saying yes to more social stuff and being open to whatever. That's how I met a girl named Lily. She's a graphic designer I met at this art exhibit my buddy dragged me to. We started talking about the weird abstract paintings, exchanged numbers, and went for coffee a few days later. It wasn't like fireworks or some big emotional thing. It was just easy and fun. She actually listened to me. She was creative. She made me feel like I didn't have to try so hard to be enough. The first time I went out for dinner with Lily, Rachel actually noticed. You're going out? Where? She asked, looking up from her phone for once. Just grabbing dinner with someone I met at that art thing last weekend. Her eyebrows went up. Like a date? I mean, yeah, I said, adjusting my collar in the mirror. She just nodded, but I could see something shift in her expression, like she'd suddenly realized there might be consequences to her brilliant idea. We started seeing each other once or twice a week. It wasn't some secret thing. We were both clear about our situations. And even though it wasn't super serious, she was probably the only person I felt like myself around in months. Around this time, Rachel started noticing how often my phone was going off. At first, she didn't say anything, but I'd catch her glancing over when my phone would light up with notifications. One time, I was making breakfast, and my phone buzzed 5 times in a row. I saw her eyeing it from across the kitchen, but she just sipped her coffee in silence. The look on her face, though, priceless. A mix of confusion and something else I couldn't quite place. Maybe disbelief. Then one evening, I was chilling on the couch, scrolling through Instagram, when a new DM popped up from this girl I met rock climbing. She was just asking if I wanted to join a group climb that weekend. Rachel happened to walk by right as I was typing back, and I noticed her slow down, hovering just a bit too long. Popular these days, huh? She finally said, trying to sound casual. But there was an edge to her voice. I just shrugged. Just climbing stuff. Seems like your phone's been blowing up lately. She was trying so hard to sound nonchalant, but her eyes kept darting to my screen. Yeah, I guess so, I replied, not offering any more information. Over the next few weeks, I noticed her watching me more and more. When I'd get a text and smile, she'd suddenly need something from whatever room I was in. If I stepped away to take a call, she'd be right there when I got back, pretending to be doing something else. She never directly asked who I was talking to, but I could see the wheels turning in her head. The woman who'd been so confident I'd have no options was slowly realizing she'd miscalculated. Badly. One night, I was getting ready to head out when Rachel appeared in the doorway of our bedroom. Going somewhere? She asked, leaning against the frame. Yeah, meeting up with Lily. Lily, she repeated, like she was testing the name. That's the 3rd woman this month? I looked up from tying my shoes. 2nd, actually. Why? No reason, she said quickly. Just keeping track, I guess. I thought we weren't supposed to be keeping tabs on each other's social lives. I couldn't resist the dig. Isn't that part of this whole evolved relationship model of yours? She flinched slightly. Right, of course. Then, trying to sound breezy, I'm just surprised, that's all. Surprised? That you're, seeing so many people. I had to bite back a laugh. You know what? Turns out the open relationship wasn't a bad idea after all. Her face hardened instantly, that fake smile vanishing faster than free beer at a frat party. Her eyes narrowed to slits, and I swear I could actually hear her teeth grinding. Yeah, great idea, she spat out. Enjoy. Then things got messy faster than I expected. Rachel was still seeing some dude from an app, and I was hanging with Lily. Nothing intense, just chill. We'd grab food, hang out, talk. But man, it felt good. Not just getting attention, but the normalcy of it. I didn't have to feel like I was stuck in this one-way emotional dead zone like I had with Rachel for months. Meanwhile, Rachel's hot girl summer started tanking hard. The guy she was seeing ghosted her, just stopped replying after one weekend together. She pretended not to care, but she kept bringing it up randomly. It's just weird because we had such a good connection. And I'd just nod, sip my coffee, saying nothing. Not gonna lie, it felt like watching karma in real time. Then I started seeing someone else briefly. Just someone from my climbing gym. Had a few hikes together, turned into a weekend thing. We both knew what it was. No games, no drama, just mutual respect. Then we moved on. Rachel didn't even notice at first because she was still in this weird headspace where she assumed I was still obsessed with her. But then she got super quiet, started asking these little questions like, "Are you seeing Lily again tonight?" Or, "Did you tell her about our situation?" It wasn't because she cared about my safety or anything. She was just trying to figure out how far I was drifting from her orbit. One night I came home from dinner with Lily, and Rachel was just sitting on the couch with her arms crossed. She asked if I could stop emotional cheating and focus on our marriage if I still wanted to fix it. Like what? I just looked at her and said, "You wanted freedom. I just took mine too." She didn't like that. Got pissed, started listing off all the things I was doing wrong. Apparently texting Lily daily was disrespectful. Going out to dinner with her was crossing lines. And continuing to see someone she didn't approve of made her feel unsafe. I didn't yell or anything. I just reminded her that she went out and slept with someone else within the first weekend of this new arrangement. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't even give me time to process. She just did it and came home grinning. "That's different," she insisted. "Those were just hookups. You're getting emotionally involved." "You never said that was against the rules," I pointed out. "You just said no serious attachments." "Well, I'm clarifying the rules now," she snapped. "No, you're changing them because you don't like how this is playing out. And now that her side of things wasn't going well, I was supposed to what? Drop what was working for me just to protect her ego?" She tried flipping it again, saying she didn't realize how serious things could get if we both followed through with the open marriage idea. She thought it'd just be hookups, nothing more. The craziest part? She was still completely unapologetic about the whole thing, like she was entitled to change the terms whenever she wanted, and I was just supposed to go along with it. She never once admitted that maybe, just maybe, suggesting an open marriage had been a mistake. Instead, she acted like I was the one who'd twisted her pure, evolved relationship model into something dirty. At that point, I felt bored with the whole game. Watching Rachel try to change the rules when they no longer benefited her didn't make me angry anymore. It just clarified things. This wasn't a partnership. It was a one-sided arrangement where her needs always came first. So I called a lawyer and started the divorce process. No drama, no big confrontation. I was just done with the whole thing. Honestly, it felt like checking out of a shitty hotel after a stay that went on way too long. The game was fun for a minute, seeing her squirm when she realized I had options. But the novelty wore off fast. Why keep pretending when we both knew this marriage was toast? Time to move on and stop wasting each other's time. During that time, I got a DM on Instagram from none other than Vanessa, Rachel's coworker, the one who supposedly had this amazing open marriage and had filled my wife's head with all these ideas. "Hey, I hope this isn't weird, but I've been meaning to reach out. Rachel talks about you all the time at work and I was wondering if you'd want to grab coffee sometime?" No pressure. I stared at that message for a solid 10 minutes. Was this a trap? Was Rachel testing me? But honestly, at this point, I didn't really give a shit anymore. The divorce papers were already being processed, and I figured I might as well hear what she had to say. This was the woman who had supposedly blown up my marriage. Might as well meet her and get the full story before I close this chapter of my life completely. We met at this little cafe downtown. When Vanessa walked in, I recognized her from the Christmas party, but she looked different, more put together, less loud. She sat down and immediately started talking. "So, I'm guessing you're wondering why I wanted to meet." I nodded, and that's when she dropped the bomb. "I need to clear something up. My husband and I don't have an open marriage. We never have. I don't know why Rachel would say that." I nearly spit out my coffee. "Wait, what?" "Rachel said you were the one who convinced her to try an open marriage, that you and your husband were doing it and loving it." Vanessa looked confused. That's just not true. God, I hope Mike doesn't hear about this. We're as monogamous as they come. Then why would Rachel say that?" Vanessa shrugged. "Honestly, I think she's been trying to impress this new manager at work. He's this young tech bro type who's always talking about his progressive relationship style. Rachel's been kissing his ass since he started. I sat back, trying to process this. So Rachel had lied about where she got the idea. Had she been feeding me bullshit this whole time? As we kept talking, Vanessa revealed she'd been worried about Rachel for months. Said she'd been acting weird at work, flirting with coworkers, going out for long lunches with the new manager. Then she dropped another bomb. Rachel had been bringing one of her hookups to office happy hours, introducing him as a friend, but being super handsy in front of everyone. It was embarrassing, honestly. Everyone knows she's married. I thought you should know. By the end of that coffee, I had a whole new perspective on things. I thanked Vanessa for her honesty, and yeah, I noticed she was attractive, but I wasn't about to go there. That would be too messy, even for this disaster of a situation. But before we left, she hesitated, then asked if I wanted to get dinner sometime. Said she'd always thought I seemed nice and grounded, unlike some of the guys Rachel talked about. I surprised myself by saying yes. Driving home, my head was spinning. Part of me wondered if Vanessa was telling the truth. What if she was just making this up to drive a wedge between me and Rachel? What if she had her own agenda? But then why would Rachel lie about Vanessa's marriage? Nothing made sense anymore, and I wasn't sure who to believe. But I guess someone saw us in the cafe and told Rachel, because when I got home that night, all hell broke loose. She was waiting for me, eyes red from crying. You went out with Vanessa? My friend? From my work? I just stood there, letting her yell. When she finally ran out of steam, I calmly told her everything I'd learned. That Vanessa and her husband didn't have an open marriage. That Rachel had been showing off one of her hookups at work events. That she'd probably gotten the whole idea from her new manager, not her friend. Rachel went pale. Then she switched tactics completely. Suddenly she was crying, saying she'd made a huge mistake, that she'd been confused and influenced by people at work, that she realized now how much she loved me and only me, that she wanted to close the marriage again, go back to being monogamous, maybe even try couples therapy. I was just experimenting, she sobbed. I didn't think you'd actually go along with it and start seeing other women. So you thought what? That I'd just sit at home while you explored? I asked. I didn't think you'd actually get dates, she blurted out, then immediately looked like she regretted it. I mean, I never thought you'd be so into it. And there it was. The ugly truth. She'd never expected me to get attention from other women. She'd set up this whole open marriage thing expecting to be the only one who benefited, while I waited around like some pathetic backup plan for when she was done exploring. You know what the funniest part is? I said. I never even tried. I didn't go on dating apps begging for matches. I didn't hit up old exes. I just started working on myself and women noticed. Meanwhile, you're out there actively searching and still getting ghosted. That hit a nerve. She went from tears to rage in about 2 seconds. So what? You think you're so great now? You weren't complaining about me when I was the only woman who would look at you for 6 years? No, I wasn't. Because I was committed to you. I didn't want other women looking at me. But you changed the rules, remember? You decided our marriage wasn't enough for you. Don't be mad that I turned out to be better at the game you started. She stormed out after that. Slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. I just sat on the couch, feeling this weird mix of anger and relief. Like finally, the truth was out in the open. She'd never expected me to thrive without her. She'd expected me to fail, to prove that she was the best I could ever get, that I needed her more than she needed me. But that's not what happened. And now she couldn't handle it. The next day, I found out Rachel had confronted Vanessa at work, called her a backstabbing bitch, and caused this huge scene in the break room. Accused her of trying to steal her husband. Vanessa texted me about it. And honestly, I felt bad that she'd been dragged into our mess. But I also knew that was the final straw for me. That night, I handed Rachel divorce papers I'd had drawn up weeks ago. Her face when she realized I'd been planning this, that I hadn't just spontaneously decided after the Vanessa incident, was something I'll never forget. Marriage isn't a game, I told her. You don't get to change the rules when it suits you, then change them back when it doesn't. I'm done. She went into full panic mode, crying, begging, promising to change. Said she'd quit her job, delete all her dating apps, anything I wanted. But it was too late. I'd mentally checked out the moment she suggested opening our marriage and laughed about how no one would want me anyway. I just hadn't admitted it to myself until now. You can't do this, she said. I made one mistake. No, you made a series of choices, I corrected her. You chose to pull away from me. You chose to suggest an open marriage. You chose to lie about where you got the idea. You chose to hook up with other guys without giving me time to process. And you chose to make me feel like I should be grateful anyone wanted me at all. Those weren't mistakes. They were deliberate decisions. She had no response to that, just more tears and accusations. But she never Not once, actually apologized for what she'd done. The next few weeks were hell. Rachel went between begging me to reconsider and threatening to destroy me if I went through with the divorce. She called my parents, told them I'd been cheating on her with multiple women, conveniently leaving out the whole open marriage part. She tried to turn our mutual friends against me, saying I'd changed and become some kind of player. But I had receipts, text messages where she'd laid out the whole open marriage idea, screenshots of her dating app profiles, the conversation where she'd literally laughed at the idea of me getting attention from other women. Once people saw those, the narrative shifted real quick. What really sealed the deal, though, was when her manager got involved. He actually had the balls to text me, saying he thought I was being closed-minded and punishing Rachel for her sexual liberation. Said if I was a real man, I'd be secure enough to let my wife explore her desires without feeling threatened. I didn't even dignify that with a response. Just forwarded the message to Rachel with, "Your boyfriend's texting me now?" Real classy. She called me immediately, crying and swearing he wasn't her boyfriend. They'd never hooked up. He was just a mentor at work. But the damage was done. If this guy felt comfortable enough to reach out to me, her husband, and lecture me about my own marriage, there was definitely something going on there. The divorce wasn't pretty, but it was necessary. I didn't stick around to watch the fallout. I moved out, got my own place, and focused on rebuilding my life. I didn't date for a while. Not Vanessa, not Lily, not anyone. I needed time to process everything and figure out who I was outside of that toxic relationship. Sometimes I'd get texts from Rachel late at night. Sometimes angry, sometimes sad, sometimes weirdly nostalgic. I stopped responding after a while. There was nothing left to say. I kept up with the gym, the rock climbing, all the stuff I'd gotten back into during our open marriage phase. Not because I was trying to impress anyone, but because I genuinely enjoyed it. I reconnected with old friends, made some new ones, started traveling a bit, just weekend trips to places I'd always wanted to see. I started spending more time at this little coffee shop near my new place. Nothing fancy, just quiet enough to think. After a while, the barista started noticing me coming in almost every other day. One afternoon, while handing me my usual, she smiled and said, "Rough week?" I guess I must have looked worse than I thought, because we ended up talking for a bit. Nothing deep at first, just little things. Work, hobbies, favorite books. She joked that I was turning into a piece of the furniture, and somehow it didn't feel like small talk. It felt easy. Over time, it just kind of happened. Coffee turned into longer conversations. Conversations turned into grabbing dinner after her shift. I wasn't looking for anything, but she made it hard not to notice how different things could be when someone actually gave a damn. She was grounded, honest, didn't play games, didn't need to explore anything. She knew who she was. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could just breathe. Looking back, it's funny. Rachel had spent so much energy trying to find freedom, chasing people who barely looked twice at her. Meanwhile, without even trying, I found something real just living my life. It's funny how things work out. What started as Rachel's attempt to get freedom from our marriage became my path to actual freedom. Freedom from seeking her approval. Freedom from questioning my worth. Freedom from a relationship that had turned toxic. If she hadn't pushed for that open marriage, I might still be there, making dinner for someone who couldn't be bothered to look up from her phone, still feeling like a ghost in my own life. A while later, I ran into Vanessa at a bar. She was there with her husband, happy and drama-free. We caught up for a minute. She mentioned Rachel had moved to another state and was still single, still searching. I wished her well. No anger, just quiet closure. As for me, life got better. I still hit the gym, still climb, still hang out at that coffee shop. Sometimes we talk about the future, but there's no pressure, no games. Just two people who actually mean it when they say they care. Rachel wanted freedom. She got it. So did I. Turns out mine came with peace instead of chaos.